Welcome to the World Parkinson's Coalition virtual YOPD Young Onset Parkinson's Disease Programme. My name is Alison Anderson and I'm your moderator for the next hour. I'm delighted to be joined by Bjorn Torre Bergum, who will be talking about maintaining personal relationships. Bjorn is a clinical social worker and family therapist in Oslo, Norway. And after 30 years in the field of child and adolescent psychiatry, he has for the past 8 years practiced as a therapist, where he works with couples and families living with a wide range of chronic disorders. For the past decade, Bjorn has worked with the Norwegian Parkinson community as a counsellor. He has given many talks locally, nationally, and now internationally on relationship issues. His focus is to support the children, partners, extended family, friends, colleagues, as well as the person living with Parkinson's, to understand and to navigate how they are affected by the diagnosis. You may be aware that there are 9 talks in this virtual YOPD series, and they're divided into 3 categories: individual, relations, and medical. All 9 sessions have been recorded and will be available by Monday next week for viewing. During the session, you will notice a box on the right-hand side with up to 3 tabs. The question tab is the one that you will need to use to submit any questions at any time during the talk. We will allow some time at the end of the talk so that Bjorn can address all of these questions. There's also a resource tab and a poll tab, but I don't think you'll need them during this session. Finally, I would like to thank our sponsor, Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America. We would not be here today without your generous support. So without further ado, I shall hand you over to Bjorn and very much look forward to sharing the session with you.
Thank you, Alison. I have never met anyone who has said that the dream of my life is to get a chronic disease. And I've never met anyone who has said, I would like to live my life with Parkinson's. Small humans start to create dreams for their lives, wanting to be like the older sibling, their parent, to become a firefighter, a professional soccer player, a pop star, or a professional gamer. Big dreams. Later, the dreams become more realistic: to do well in school, have good friends, find a boyfriend or a girlfriend, learn to play the guitar, to get a meaningful job, and maybe start a family. For many, a good life means a life that is meaningful. Family, friends, education, work, spare time activities in a good blend gives meaning to life. And people will also emphasize good health as a base for a good life. The dream is characterized by absence of major difficulties in all aspects of life. As humans, we are born to handle development and change. The birth, a tremendous change. We start to breathe, get nutrition via our mouth. This just happens, and the child adapts to the new reality. And it goes on. The child learns to walk, learns to talk, learns to ride a bike, goes to kindergarten, to school, and get friends, finds a sweetheart, have sex for the first time, move away from home, find a partner, and have the first child. Between each change, we seek new equilibrium. We accept the imbalance during life transition. We have seen others do it and succeeded. The expectation is that life on the other side of the transition is an even better and fuller life. A transitional crisis is often challenging but wanted. In my profession, as a family therapist, we find it useful to think that we live our lives in systems. We use what we call a systemic approach to understand human life and struggle. I like to use a spider web as an illustration. The individuals are tied together by numerous threads in a complicated pattern. That means that what happens to one individual will in some way affect the others. It's hard to say how, but it does. No man is an island is another way of putting it. If we imagine that these individuals are close, friends, relatives, or a family, it's obvious that when Parkinson's hit the spider web, the whole net will be shaken. It's like an earthquake. Everything and everyone are set in motion. It's definitely not a wanted change. It is not a transitional crisis. This is an unwanted, lasting change in life. It's a real crisis. The way we face such a change is most often with shock. It cannot be true. A feeling of confusion. I will resist it. I will exercise like crazy to stop it, deny the fact, search for second opinion, find a better physician. The dream of life is threatened. Some of the things I've hoped for might not happen. I will lose some of my skills. How will people around me react to me changing? And of course, the rest of the family and people around will have similar reaction. How will my life be when my partner has Parkinson's disease from now on? And what will happen to me now that mom or dad has PD? Grief is the human reaction to loss. And grieving is not something that can be finished. It will come back as we pass milestones in the process of Parkinson's, as the process of Parkinson's proceeds. Fear and uncertainty move in as uninvited guests along Parkinson's. And there's a risk that some of the threads in the spider web will break. It's a struggle to find ways to create new perspectives and find new coping mechanisms on the way to come to terms with the situation and some kind of equilibrium. So, is it possible to find new balance in life? Through the rest of this session, I will focus on relations, how they are affected by chronic disease. I will focus on living in a family with Parkinson's, but I hope those of you who are not in relationships will find some of what I'm saying useful anyway. And I will suggest some ideas on how to handle the challenges. I'm honored to have the chance to share my thoughts with you. And thanks to the organizers for highlighting relations and individuals with PD. I believe the topic needs more focus. And thanks to Alison for the nice introduction. As you already understood, I guess, that English is not my native language. Til vanlig snakker jeg norsk, og det hadde gjort seg veldig dårlig på skjermen her i dag. So please, it's a bit scary for me to do this session in English, in a foreign language, and I hope you will bear with me. And please, don't hesitate to ask questions to Alison and me, and we'll do as well as we can to answer those at the end of the session. When I was a child, ending up in hospital would mean to stay there alone and being taken care of by the staff. Parents would not be allowed to see their child during the visit, only to see them during the visiting hours. And of course, when the parents left, the child got upset, cried, and was difficult to comfort. The conclusion: parents are a disturbance. The British psychiatrist and psychologist John Bowlby started to study this, and he reached a different conclusion. The child reacted exactly like a child should, with separation anxiety. Bowlby, along with others, developed the attachment theory, which is an evolutionary developed and biological drive for proximity, is activated when the individual experiences insecurity and motivates seeking protection from a caregiver. The characteristics of attachment can be explained this way: the secure base, the need to explore the world from a safe place. Safe haven, the need to seek comfort and safety from a caregiver. Staying close, the need to stay close to the caregiver. And finally, separation anxiety, fear and unrest when the caregiver is unavailable. So imagine a playground, a parent and a child. The parent is sitting on a bench. The child is walking across the playground. The child will often turn its head to check for approval and encouragement and keep on exploring. At one point, the parent needs to pick up something from the car and leaves the bench. The child turns its head, realizes the parent is not there, and panics. Separation anxiety strikes. The safe haven is not there. This is not just for infants. Attachment is important for all of us throughout life. But infants are, as humans, completely dependent on their caretaker for food, for protection, for comfort, for health, and for regulating feelings. A baby who is left alone will die. So the baby has a capacity to trigger the caretaker to respond to its needs. And the parents do normally have the capacity to understand and give the baby what it needs. This is a subtle interaction, a necessary interaction to create a strong and safe relation. As we grow up, we still need this feeling of a strong and safe relationship. As the baby, we need someone to belong to. It's not a matter of life or death anymore, but threats to our relationship will create strong feelings of insecurity, at times as if it was a matter of life and death. Fight, flight, or freeze are the responses triggered when we are in the state of separation anxiety. Knowing this, both as a professional but also as a husband and father, it helps me understand why relational struggle can affect us so hard and make us be the baddest versions of ourselves. So how do we grown-ups communicate attachment? The words we use, we say, I love you. You look so good in your new shirt. The time we share, let's sit down for a cup of coffee. Do you want to go for a walk with me? The gifts we give and the gifts we are given. I bought your favorite chocolate today. I brought home a bouquet of flowers. The Christmas gifts, or a text message with a heart. Acts of service. I will take the children this morning so you can sleep in. Or I can come over and help you paint the wall. You can have the sofa. I can sit in the chair. Physical touch. The kiss, the light stroke on my shoulder, holding hands, intimacy and sex, and of course, all the other different ways nonverbal communication allows us to communicate. A sigh, a smile, the way we use our eyes, the way we turn our body, the way we show our state with the color of our face. And of course, we need to mention digital communication as a way of expressing and communicating attachment. In our relationships, there is an everlasting negotiation between feeling close and feeling apart. In all we do, big or small, there is in a way a subtext of relationship. Are you there when I need you? Can you give me what I need? And we add it up. Is this relationship okay for me? Do I feel the threads are strong? And we reach some kind of conclusion on the scale between feeling secure in the relationship and feeling insecure. What we know will strengthen the threads is being curious on the other person's life, dreams, hopes, and fears. Ask about the book your partner is reading, the meeting at work. How are you doing with Parkinson's? What did the doctor say today? How is it for you when I need to rest so much? And how do you think our children are coping with PD? Deepening knowledge about each other builds resistance. When you talk, be curious, be a journalist, be a tourist in the other person's world. Ask for more reflections, for more stories, more dreams, more fear, and more joys. Listen carefully. To be able to listen, we need to stop the dialogue going on in our own mind. We need to focus on the other without preparing my own next statement. Ask the follow-up questions. Help the other develop the story. Almost like a pinball machine, where the goal is to keep the ball moving as long as possible. And be patient. Use time. Don't rush the other. And important, hold back what you want to say. It's tempting to try to ease the pain, the fear. If the story you are told is a tough one, stay in there, stay in. Show that you want to understand. The Norwegian psychologist Lisbeth Brudal has been a pioneer of the field of communication and developed this tool. She called it empathic communication. It sums up the ideas I just mentioned. So when an issue needs to be talked about, one talks and the other one is in the listening position. Tell me about it. The listener helps the story to evolve. When the story is told, the listener asks, how do you feel about it? Thereafter, what do you think about it? Now the listener is interested in getting to know the rational reflection on the matter. And finally, the listener asks, would you like to hear my thoughts on what I've heard? The invitation may be welcomed, or maybe it was just good enough to have had the focus from the listener. So, tell me about it. What do you feel about it? What do you think about it? And would you like to hear my thoughts? And if you follow this tool with children, you might have to change the number 4. Say, now you're going to hear my thoughts. You don't ask. You might need to give some kind of correction. So then you don't always ask. But when you talk with grown-ups, you ask for permission to share your thoughts. And then when that's done, change roles. When threads in the spider web breaks, communication is one of the first things to be heard. And there are some dangers to be aware of. When information is not shared, news from the neurologist is held back or filtered. When a sigh from a child about the situation becomes a secret. Silence. Some topics are not talked about. Some don't talk about PD at all. Some don't talk about feelings. And some don't talk about what the future might bring. And something is stuck if you experience lack of interest or curiosity in your family members. Do you know the guessing game? Partners and family members establish their ideas about the others based on assumptions. The flow of information has stopped. And this is risky business. Rejection. A family member makes a remark or asks a question and is met with silence, a hush, or don't say such a thing, mom can get upset. And trivialization. It's nothing. Everything's going to be okay. Don't talk about it. It's not that important. If you experience some of these dangers, it is about time to have a talk. It takes courage to share your inner life. The stakes are high, but the gain might be big. But to be able to share is dependent on wanting to come to terms with the situation. This might cost, but as a family therapist, I can promise you the alternative is far worse. So the good talk, get to know the other's inner world. Make a date, find an appointment at 5 o'clock on Monday evening. Set a limited time. Many are scared of having been caught up in a talk that will last all evening. So maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes is okay. Clarify the topic. What is most important to talk about today? One talks, the other or others are listening. Swap roles, use empathic communication, and stop. The last point is very important. And if you didn't finish the talk, find a new time and continue. The Parkinson family or the Hansen family? Who do you want to be? Parkinson will take space and must be given space for training, rest, seeing the doctor or the neurologist, the physiotherapist, seminars and courses, new activities, new social network, worries, brooding, talks, unrest, fear, everyone's adjustment. All that needs space. Of course it needs space. But chronic disease is forceful. The uninvited guest who will not leave can become the dominating element in the home. Taking over, not just in a way the body of the one with Parkinson's disease, but also the atmosphere in the family and the minds of the individuals. Chronic disease needs to be told to behave. Yesterday, I heard Rebecca and Sonia talk wisely and well about parenting, and I will just emphasize some of their points. We cannot underestimate children's capacity to pick up signals on what's going on in the family. There's no such a thing as the children don't know. They haven't heard. We talked about it behind closed doors. They were not at home when we talked about it. At some mysterious way, they pick up these things anyway. We cannot also underestimate children's need to secure attachment. They can become silent, talk, take more and maybe too much responsibility. They can protect parents from their difficult feelings. All this to try to make their parents coping parents. Their parents are their insurance for a safe life. Sometimes the insurance premium is too high. As I've said, they're carefully tuned to read adults. And they're extremely sensitive to minor changes in routines, in the face of their parents' faces, in the way they move, whatever little wink will be noticed. And they need to create coherence in their life. And they fill the missing pieces in the puzzle with self-made pieces. And from my experience, their imagination is often worse than reality. And second, since children tend to have an egocentric perspective on their life, they might understand the situation as if it's their fault, and they'll feel guilt. Rebecca and Sonia outlined this yesterday, but I'll just repeat it. They need information to follow their age. They need information and knowledge. They need to be allowed to ask questions and receive truthful answers, which does not mean the whole truth. It means part of the truth, which can be developed as they grow older. And above all, they need emotional support. And they need acknowledgement for what they are feeling and that it's real feelings and that the feelings have a name and that they're okay. I've met some groups of children where one parent, even two parents had Parkinson's disease in one case. And I've asked them, if you were given the chance to ask, what would you ask about and what were your concerns? And I would group those questions in three groups. What is Parkinson? Facts about Parkinson's. What is it? Will you die from it? Is there a cure? What does the medicine do? Why do you move the way you do? And I've met children at these camps with families where there are on a camp for families with Parkinson's, and children ask, what is Parkinson? And I think the parents have probably explained, but they need to explain over and over and over again. The next is, how is it to be the one with Parkinson's? They worry about both the physical and mental well-being of the parent. Are you sad? Are you afraid? And third, about their own situation. What will happen to them? What will my life be like? Why do we have to be so quiet? Why do we have to cancel appointments? And they need to be able to ask those questions. or they will try to make up the answers themselves. So a few examples of quotes from these kids. What is the worst thing that can happen? Can Parkinson's destroy something in the brain or in the body? Boy, 9 years of age. Why did I become invisible? Why was I put in charge of everyone in the family? Girl, 15. And I remember when I had these groups of you see, they're between the age of 8 or 9 and 15, 16. And when I collected these questions and sat down and read them, I just had to cry. It was so emotional. To be trusted, the questions for one, but that they needed to ask these questions showed me a group of kids that needed help understanding and coping with their situation. So this is very important thing to me when I meet parents and families where one has Parkinson's disease. So the Hansen family and Parkinson's. Again, make a date, invite partner, children, siblings, parents, whoever is important. Inform. Tell them about Parkinson's. Tell them about how it's affecting you. Tell them about the treatment. Tell them about who is helping you, physiotherapist, neurologist, whoever. Share thoughts about Parkinson's. It's going to be a big change. It is a big change. Maybe I need to stop working in a while. Let it be a topic that can be discussed and allow reactions. Maybe the 13-year-old girl will run out to a room, or one boy will start to make a noise or play with his phone or whatever. There are ways of reacting, ways of showing that they're touched by what's happening. An invite to a continued dialogue. And this dialogue is never ending. It's not just one talk about Parkinson's. It needs to be kept alive for the rest of the life. And then when I'm saying talk about it for the rest of your life, and I said stop, but you understand what I mean. The actual talk shouldn't be lasting too long. It should be quite compact, but still space enough for people to react and ask questions. And then the meeting is over, we can pick it up later. So, be the Hansen family. Do the dishes, laugh, go for a walk, be with friends, worry about old parents, care about children, make love, encourage each other, touch each other, be quiet together, watch a series, be alone, work, sleep. Is it possible to find new balance? And my conclusion is yes. With courage, focus, will, and openness, it will contribute to a new balance. But this balance needs to be found over and over and over and over again for the rest of your lives. That was what I was wanting to share with you today. And thanks for listening. And I hope you have some questions for Alison and me. So if we get Alison back on the screen, we'll see what's going on.
Thank you, Bjorn, for a really informative talk, very thought-provoking as well. And if I may, just before we take questions, just tell a short example of one of the things you touched on about children and gauging your reaction to things. With Parkinson's, there's a lack of facial emotions, a freezing of your face. And when I was diagnosed, my son, I didn't realize how much my son read my face. And when my face didn't move like it used to, that really confused him. So the things that he used to know, I was teasing him about. He was young, he was cheeky. We often used to play and joke, and I would tease him. And he said to me one day, "You're really angry with me, Mum." And I wasn't. I was exactly the same as I'd always been, teasing and playing and joking. But he interpreted my face completely differently. So we developed a signal, a hand signal, which took over from my face. And when he looked at me, if I went like this, he knew I was teasing, I was joking, I was smiling, but although he couldn't read my face. That just, when you talked about children and their emotions engaging what's going on, that's what sprung to mind.
Yeah.
Just a real life example.
A good example. That also reminds me of one of the questions I received was, do you always look as indifferent as you seem?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And my
Yeah.
husband has the same thing. He sometimes says, "You look miserable today." And I have to say, I'm not, it's finding a different way of expressing yourself. And I try and remember that my face is not as expressive as it used to be.
Yeah. But that's a very good idea to develop some kind of a sign language to support that kind of communication.
It's quite a nice signal now between me and
Yes.
him. He
Yeah.
knows that we're okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Anyway,
So do you have any questions for us?
we do. There's been some questions come in, so I'll take them as they came through. The first question is, my emotions swing between anger for being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and guilt for what I anticipate the future holds for my spouse and kids. How can I navigate these two frustrating emotions?
It's a very good and very complicated and moving question. To feel angry, first of all, I think the feeling of anger should be accepted. Of course, you can be angry when your life changes the way it has done. So anger is not a wrong feeling. Anger is telling you something important about what's happened to your life, which was not what you wanted. It says something about your needs. So in a way, I know it's hard to embrace anger, but to embrace the feelings that come, I think that should be what we could learn to do. But the way we show it, that we can choose. Mm-hmm. So to be angry somewhere and not showing anger a different place, that's what we grown-ups need to be able to do. So what was the second part of the question? About what the future brings? I can't hear you, Alison.
Sorry, I thought I'd unmuted there.
Okay.
The second part of the question was guilt for what I anticipate the future holds for my spouse and kids, and how they can navigate that frustrating emotion.
Yeah. Um, when I meet a person at work asking these questions, I offer them 10 sessions to talk about these things. That's that's why I'm struggling a bit to come, how would say it, to
Condense.
minimize the question to this format. Share the feeling with your spouse first, and also share with your children that I wished something else for us, and I'm sorry this happened. And then try to see if it's possible to place guilt somewhere else, but not on yourself, because it's not your fault that you got Parkinson's disease. I don't know who can have the blame, destiny or whatever. Um, I would often with a family say that it's mom and dad and the two children in four chairs, and the fifth chair is for Parkinson's. And then we can talk to Parkinson and tell him or her, whatever, what we think about it. Then we have moved the disease or whatever out of the one who has the diagnosis, and we are the team, and we have this enemy trying to mess up our life, and we can be angry with it together, and we can feel whatever we feel for it together. So I think that's one idea of talking about it. The family on one side of the table and Parkinson's on the other side of the table.
Thank you. We have another question that's come in with after 13 years with Parkinson's disease and still you think your partner doesn't understand or wants to, what do you think is the best approach?
My first impulse is to ask some questions. Has the spouse accompanied you to the neurologist, to other professionals who are helping you, to have them explain about Parkinson's in general, but also your individual version of Parkinson's? I often experience there's a lack of information to what we call pårørende, next of kin, the family and the spouses, about the illness. So if possible, I would invite my partner to join me to see the professionals who are helping me. It's easier to embrace information from a third party than from your spouse.
Thank you.
If that doesn't work, we have a new problem. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We have another question, which is, I'm afraid I will say the wrong thing, so I often say nothing at all. I don't think this is necessarily a good approach, but what do you advise? Sorry, there's lots of difficult questions for you.
Yes. And that's why I have a job, because these are difficult questions, and we need a whole army of professionals to help people dealing with this. And we take years and years of education to try to be able to help. Repeat the question, please.
I'm afraid I will say the wrong thing.
Yes.
So often I just say nothing at all. I don't think that it's necessarily the right thing to do. So can you advise a different approach?
Yes. There's something called a soft opening to some kind of statement. So to open and say, I'm not sure how to put this thing into words. I don't know if I know exactly what I want to say. It's not dangerous if I say something. I need to search for a way to express this, to take out some of the dynamic or the strength, the force, the fear of what you're saying by opening with what we would call a soft opening. Does it make sense?
Yes, that does.
To
Thank you.
prepare the grounds for what's going to come.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And we
It,
have,
it could even be if it's natural for a person to take the other person's hand. Say, I'm not sure how what I'm going to say now will work, and I've been struggling with it for a while, but I take the chance now, and I try to bring it across to you, and it's not dangerous for us. Mhm.
thank you. We have another question that's just come in.
Oh, great.
Do you have any advice for children if they get embarrassed because they got made fun of it by someone at school about their parent who has Parkinson's?
That's now you're mentioning one of the topics I didn't talk about today, shame, which can be for all the persons in the family. And when I meet these families, the question of shame, or are you ashamed of me as a parent? Do you stop inviting kids home? Do you uh, take a step or two or three away from me when we're walking in the street? All these signs of it's awkward. The children of the in the Parkinson family at least need to have some good information about what it is. They need to be safe or secure in their knowledge about what it is. And they can be trained to have some kind like a politician's answer. It's they have just this phrase that they will use to protect them, and they don't owe anyone any answers. And to say other people think um, it's strange, they're not used to it, it looks unusual, and of course people will react when mom and dad moves this and that way or does this or that. So also normalize that it's strange for these other kids and they're uncomfortable with it. But first and foremost, I think that the kids themselves need to be secure in their knowledge and their life with a close one with Parkinson's. And then, of course, bring it to the school or the kindergarten and take it to the teacher. And if it's serious enough, the school also must do something about it. And I know parents who have met in the classroom talking about Parkinson's, explaining what it is and what it does and what it does to you, me as a parent, and show it to the group. That will also most often have a good effect.
Thank you. Good advice. I think that's all the questions that we have for just now.
Okay.
So thank you,
Good
Bjorn.
questions, and it's hard to answer these questions like online on 5 minutes.
It is,
But
absolutely.
I
You
hope
can,
some of the thoughts have made some kind of meaning for the ones who asked the questions.
yeah, I'm sure they have. I found the talk incredibly interesting, thought-provoking. It's clearly an important topic and one which is often overlooked. So we're
Yes,
delighted to have had you here talking about this today. You've certainly got the conversation started online anyway.
great.
So a big thank you to you, Bjorn, and to our
And thanks
audience.
for having me. It's been a pleasure to be able to be here and to share some ideas with you.
Fantastic. Thank you to the audience for joining us for this session. We hope you found the information valuable and something to grow on for the future. Please remember that all the talks have been recorded and they'll be available for viewing next week. We hope that you will share the information with friends, family, support groups, anyone who might like to view these talks in their own time. Thank you again to Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America for supporting the programme. And before we sign off, I'd like to invite you to save a very important date for your diary for 2026. The World Parkinson Congress is held only once every 3 years. However, plans and preparations for it never cease. Preparations are already underway for the next World Congress, the 7th, to be held in Phoenix, Arizona. It will run from the 24th to the 27th of May in 2026, and it promises to be an incredible event. There's a group of cyclists who will make their way to Phoenix, Arizona from various points throughout the USA and possibly Canada. So if anybody's interested in that, please reach out and make contact. But it promises to be a very diverse, very interesting event. So keep that date in your diary, the 24th to the 27th of May. Thank you once again, Bjorn, for a very interesting talk on a topic that's often overlooked.
Thank you.